Hi, I'm Angie and I'm in the workshop today because I want to try and show you how to line up your consecutive rows of pantograph quilting using the quilting frame. So I've got my quilt loaded and I've quilted a couple rows, and now I'm ready to advance the quilt. This is the part I had trouble finding information about, and I couldn't find a video that showed what I needed to do in order to have the pantograph line up and fill the space properly in between the rows of quilting. It's going to be a little difficult to show you, so some of the camera angles are going to be a little weird and maybe a little shaky, but I think it will help if you actually see what I'm seeing, and it will help explain what you need to do. So I don't know if you can see it well, but here is my pantograph quilting. I've done a couple rows here. This is the pantograph pattern that I'm using. The things that are important to note are the top of the quilting pattern and the bottom of the quilting pattern. I've established the left and right parameters of my quilt top, and I've marked the start, where every time I start quilting I'm going to begin at this point. And what I want is the quilting to nest within itself, just as represented by this dashed line at the bottom. That's going to be important as I line up the next row of quilting. So now that my row of quilting is finished, what I'm going to do is tie off, lift the needle out of the machine, and bring the machine to the highest point in the quilting pattern on the line that I just quilted. Doesn't matter where in the pattern. Because the pattern repeats, it could be at this one, it could be at this one, it could be at this one, doesn't matter. Anywhere along the quilting design, you want to find the uppermost point of the quilting design. So I'm going to go move the machine. Okay, now I'm going to show you from my perspective. So my needle is up, and I'm going to find the highest point in the quilting design, both on the quilt and on the pattern. So right now I'm in the front of where the quilt is, where the needle is, and what I do is look over to the quilting design, and there's my laser. Hopefully you can see that. I'm moving it to the uppermost point of the quilting design, which is about there. And it, like I said, it doesn't matter. I could use this one down here. I could use this one down here. It doesn't matter because it's repeating and they're all at the same height on the pattern. So once I find that, it should correspond also to my quilting, and it does right here. So it corresponds actually to my quilting as well from the previous row. Okay, so I get that there. Make sure it's at the right spot there with the laser, and I'm holding the machine. Once I'm on that spot, I'm going to put my needle down. We're not going to sew there, we're just going to hold it in place with the needle as we roll the quilt. Now I just want to remove my clamps. On both sides. And I'm going to release the locks on the front two roller bars. Now I'm going to roll the quilt using the take-up bar, and I'm going to start rolling very gently because the needle is still in the quilt and I don't want to break the needle. As I roll using the take-up bar, I'm watching that laser. I'm rolling, and I want to stop when it reaches the next line in the pattern, which is the dashed line. So there, it's right at the top of the dashed line of the next pattern. The machine is moving because it's attached to the quilt. As I roll the quilt, the machine is moving. Now, I just want to go back about 2 clicks past, because once I tighten the quilt, the laser is going to move again. So now it's in a good position. My needle is still in, and I'm going to engage the locks on the front two roller bars. I'm going to tighten the quilt top. And as I tighten it, that laser moves the 2 clicks back to the top of the dash design. Can you see that? Right where the laser is. And now I'll tighten the backing. My quilt is nice and tight. The laser is at the top of the design. And now I'll replace the clamps. Needle up. Because this is not actually where I'm going to start sewing, I'm going to start sewing over on the left-hand side of the quilt. So now the needle is up, everything is aligned and ready to go, and I can go back to my starting point on the left-hand side of the quilt. Now I just move to my starting point right here, and now I can put my needle down and start quilting the next row, and everything will line up perfectly. And now I can just follow the pantograph and continue to sew the next row. You can see here that they have nested well and there are no gaps. So I know this is really confusing and I found it very complex to learn the first time, but I hope that you kind of get an idea of how to position the row for your next row of pantograph quilting. Thanks for watching, and if you have any questions, please let me know. You can find out more information on my blog at overthekitchencounter.com.